Hi, arts management class. I hope you all are doing well. The first and most important thing is to tell you that I hope that none of you had any damage from the hurricane, well, from the tropical storm Imelda. If you did have any water get in your house, or if you're dealing with anything like that, please let me know. I do not want this class to be a stressor for you in that situation. I think it's really important that you prioritize that. So let me know that if you're dealing with anything because of the storm. I want to help you and make this as easy as possible for you. I don't want you to fail this class. So just shoot me an email, not a Blackboard email. That thing is ridiculous, but shoot me a real email and we can chat. I want you to feel supported, and I don't want you to worry about this class. So before I get into the lecture today, I want to talk about a couple of things. The first one is if you haven't chosen your partner for the group or for the project, I'm going to assume that you want to work alone. If that's not true, let me know. But what I am going to do is figure out how to assign groups to the assignment. And so what might happen is you might get put into a group of one so that you can submit the assignment. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is about the discussion. So starting with chapter 5, which is the chapter that first chapter that I'm going to lecture about tonight, I'm going to start being more this is what I'm looking for from your discussion, right? So your answers to the questions need to be thorough, and they need to really answer the questions. It can't just be one sentence. These are discussion and conversation. So like if somebody asked you that question in conversation, how would you answer it, right? And then the second thing is that the discussion is what we do instead of having in-person class, right? This is the way that we talk to each other and we get feedback from each other about, as classmates and as people, about the way that we feel about things. And so what you won't get full credit for is just agreeing with people. So what you need to do is look at the answers of your fellow classmates, and you need to find people who said something different than what you said and ask them maybe why they think that, or how they came to that conclusion, or maybe tell them why you think what you think, or whatever it is. But it needs to be a discussion. A good way to do that is to ask questions. And the more that you respond, the better chance it is that you're really contributing to the discussion and that you will get a full credit for the discussion. The other thing that is really important is that this is not a class that you can't read the book, right? So listening to me or watching me on a video for 30 to 60 minutes once a week is not going to cut it for a 3-hour course, right? So between this and the discussion, you also need to read the book, because some of the questions in the book are directly related to the information in the book, and I won't talk about it when I'm lecturing because it's been a long time since I've read the book. So I'm going to talk about my experiences, and it may not necessarily relate to exactly what the book says. And I can tell when you're going off of my lectures and not the book. So your answers to the discussion questions need to be a combination of the lecture and the book. You need to read the book. This is a class where you need to read the book. I know it sucks. But smarter people than me wrote it, and I trust them more than I trust me. So those are my professor things to start with here. All right, so today, first lecture today is about chapter 5, planning in the arts, planning in the arts. So planning, that's actually one of my favorite things. I know a lot of people hate planning, but you're wrong and you should feel bad about it. Just kidding. Okay, here we go. All right. So planning and decision making takes effort and focus, right? So it's a rational process, it's an irrational process, and it takes practice. You're not going to wake up one day and know how to plan stuff. It's a skill that you learn, it's a talent, it's something that you can develop over time. but it does take practice. Decision making takes discipline, right? So my boss just said the other day that leadership and management is navigating uncertainty, right? So you're just given a lot of information and you have to make a decision based on all that information, and none of it's going to be clear, and it's your job to sort of like decide what the answer is. And then plans can change a lot faster and more often than the people who make them. So that means that like plans are made by people, and people leave organizations, or they change, right? They change their opinions, or they change who they are, they learn new stuff. But plans can actually change faster than the people do. So it's important to be staying on top of your strategic planning. I'm trying to get to the right page in the book. Okay, so what does that mean for us, right? So an overview of the process planning, doing and assessing. Doing and assessing, PDA. What does that mean, PDA? Doing and assessing. I don't know what PDA means. One second. I'm literally the dumbest person. PDA means planning, doing, assessing. So that's the overview of the planning process. First you plan, then you do, then you assess. It's just that simple, right? You plan something, you do that something, and then you assess if what you planned and what you did worked. Hopefully we'll go into this, but the most important thing about planning and doing and assessing is that you're thinking about the assessment while you're doing the planning, right? So you're going to want to think about what question you're trying to answer or what you're trying to achieve, so that you can sort of measure it at the end when you're doing the planning, so that it's not that you've done something and then you have to figure out like, oh, well, how do I know if I was successful or not? Because not everything is successful for the same reasons. Oh, too far. All right, y'all, why computers hard? He's frustrated. Okay, I'm going to make this big so you can see it really well. All right, so the strategic planning process. So strategic planning is something that an organization needs to do every 5 years or so. And what it is really doing a hard look at the organization and making a plan for what the organization is going to focus on over the next couple of years. So you start with organizational analysis. Where are we now? Where do we want to go? How do we want to get there, right? So you look at who you are and you say, what are we doing? Make a list. This is what we're doing. This is what we want to be doing, and this is how we're going to, and then the questions are, how do we get there, right? And you figure out how you get there. So your mission, vision, values, analysis. So your mission is your purpose, right? Your vision is your future, and your values are your core beliefs. Talk about that again. Your mission is your purpose, your vision is your future, and your values are your core beliefs. So a mission statement, the basic elements of any mission statement, typically include wording to help the reader understand what the organization does and why it does it. For example, a theater company might be dedicated to presenting new works. A ballet company might be committed to performing classical works, or a museum may see itself as a venue for exhibiting contemporary art. Groups of all sizes need a concise statement that communicates to the world who they are and why they exist. However, there can be a lot of flexibility in how long or how complicated that might be. My personal opinion is that your mission should be no more than 2 sentences. It should be what problem are you trying to solve and how are you doing it. That's my personal opinion about that. All right, Your vision is your future. So where do you see the organization going? If it's 20 years down the line, what's the organization doing 20 years from now? And then the values are your core beliefs. So do you believe in transparency? Do you believe in love? Do you believe in good art? Do you believe in community engagement, right? Defining your vision, your values is really important. And so every 5 years or so, you need to look at your mission, your vision, and your values and make sure that those are still valid, right? Those are still the way that you want to run your organization. Okay? So the best way to do that is with a SWOT, a situational analysis, or a SWOT. A SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I am going to try to do something and we'll see if it works. Two more seconds. Professor Hainley's really great, but she seems like she doesn't plan very well. It's really weird because she's doing a planning class. I know, strange, right? All right, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Usually when you see that, it looks like this. This would be strengths, SWOT analysis. This would be weaknesses. This would be opportunities. And this is threats. So these things are internal. These are internal to the organization, right? What are the things going on inside of your organization that are good? And what are the things that are going on inside of your organization that could be better, that you could expand upon? Opportunities and threats are external to the organization. What's going on outside of the organization that could be an opportunity for you? What could be a threat, right? A tropical storm could go in either place, right? An opportunity or a threat. A new theater, a new arts organization that is the same kind of arts organization as you, that could be an opportunity or a threat depending on how you look at it. Is there something changing in those environments that we talked about last week, right? We talked about the legal environment, the political environment, the economic environment, right? Those are the opportunities and threats you want to think about when you're doing a SWOT analysis. So strengths and weaknesses are internal. What are the best things that you have? What are the things that you could improve? Opportunities and threats are external. What kind of environments, what's going on outside of the organization that you could take advantage of, and what's going on outside of the organization that could be a threat to you. This is what it usually looks like: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You do it in a what is this? Is a rectangle? It's like a rectangle, maybe a square. So yes, that is a SWOT analysis. SWOT analyses are used all the time. All right, so then you want to do a resource analysis. A resource analysis is when you look at all of the resources that you have in the organization. Look at your people, their skills and their abilities, right? How long have they been there? Are they loyal? What do they do well? What do they do not well? What could they learn? What are they stubborn about? Who's doing good management? Who's doing bad management? You know, all that stuff. You look at your financial resources. How much money do you have? How much money do you have in the bank? How much money are you spending? Are you in the red? Are you spending more than you're saving? Or that things coming in? Are you getting all of your money from a specific place? Your physical resources, right? Do you own a space? How big is your space? Do you have room to have more space? Are you full of props? So you might need to go through your props, right? Adequate support systems. So like, do you have a network? Do you have, a plan in case of an emergency? Do you have someone to talk to in case you need more money? Do you have an adequate support system? Business practices and policies. So like, that's more policies, right? So like, have you updated all of your human resources practices and policies to the new standard, right? Do you know if you filed your taxes? Have you had your financials audited? These are all business practices and policies that you just want to look at and make sure that they're working. Are there any practices and policies that maybe you have that you shouldn't have, or that you have that aren't working, right? These are all business practices and policies. Assessment systems. So like, how do you know if you're successful or not? And how are you assessing if you're successful or not? What are you using as benchmarks to tell yourself if you're successful as an organization? And is that the correct way to do that? Right, so these are all the questions you have to answer in your organizational analysis. Where are we now? Where do we want to go? How do we want to get there, right? Those are the questions you answer in this. You do it through all of these things, right? So then when you do this, you're going to come up with a list of like 4,000 things. 4,000 things. We need more people, we need more money, we need more this, we need more that. This is bad, this is good. You're going to have 400 things. What you're going to need to do is establish priorities. So you look at your list of 400 things, you look at your SWOT analysis, and you say, okay, what are the top 3 to 5 initiatives we need to address over the next 1 to 5 years, right? So let's say that your organization gets 80% of its money from the same funder. That's not great financial planning, right? That's about stability, right? Stability. So right here, when we're talking about formulating a strategy based on the priorities we have set, what's our best strategic choices, right? All right, so that's stability. Continuing to, no, that was a lie. So let's back up. So let's say your organization gets like 80% of its funding from the same funder. Maybe it's one of your priorities to diversify your funding. Maybe you have 2 programs, but you'd like to expand to 3 programs because you think that that would be a great financial, you think you have the staff for it and you think it would be a good financial boon. That would be a strategy, right? So a priority. So then once you list out your priorities, what are the things that are important? Are they financial? Are they programmatic? Are they people-based, right? Then you think about what kind of strategy, right? So your strategy might be stability, right? We're doing everything right. We're going to keep doing what we're doing for the next 5 years. This is what we do best. This is what we're going to keep doing. We know that we're being successful at it. Growth, right? Growth is to expand to new programs and add activities. That means you're going to keep doing what you're doing and you're going to add more stuff. So I have 3 programs, but I'm going to add 4 more programs because I think we can do it and I believe in our organization and there's room in the environment for us, and it's something that's missing. That's growth. Re-entrenchment, so reduce or eliminate designated current programs. So that means like, oh my God, we have 100 programs and not all of them are successful. Through our assessment, we've realized that only 50 of them are successful. So what we're going to do over the next 5 years to keep from shocking the system is we're going to start eliminating programs. That's what our strategy is going to be. Or a combination of those things, right? Normally your strategy is going to be a combination of those things, right? Some things are going to stay stable. Some things are going to grow and some things are going to retrench. Okay, so that means like, you're going to be like, you know what, we've got a really great fundraising strategy, so we're just going to stay stable. We're going to keep doing what we're doing as far as stability, or as far as fundraising is concerned, but man, we need more people, right? So we're going to expand we're going to grow our employee base, and that's going to be a priority for us. But what's really not a priority for us is the educational programs that we're doing. They're not successful. We don't have people coming. I mean, we think it's you know, not great. So we're going to retrench it. We're going to send it out. All right. So the last thing you do is to develop goals, objectives, and action plans based on your strategy and evaluate. So when you're setting a goal, timeout. Does everyone know what a SMART goal is? Does everyone know what a SMART goal is? SMART goal. So a SMART goal is, you guys know what a SMART goal is? I know you're like yelling at the screen right now. I know what it is, it's this. But I want you to think about it. Don't Google it. Don't Google it. Don't Google it. All right, so SMART means specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. That's a SMART goal. Specific, measurable, achievable. Some people say attainable. Some people say assignable. A stands for a lot of things. Realistic and timely. So SMART means, so specific. What exactly do you want to do? What exactly do you want to do? Measurable, right? How will you know when you've achieved it? Achievable. Is it in your power to accomplish it? Relevant. Relevant? Relevant. Does it make sense with your mission? Does it improve the business? Time-based. When exactly do you want to accomplish it? So that's a SMART goal. A goal should be something like that. So your goal isn't, I want to be president, right? That's not a SMART goal. I want a president. Wow. I want to be president, or I'm going to be president. SMART goal, a SMART goal along those lines would be something like, my goal is to be president of what? So I want to be president. I'm going to be president of what? That's not very specific, right? Right? It's not specific. So to be specific, right? You want to be president of what? So we'll say president of the US, right? Okay, so how will you know when you've achieved it? How will you know when you've achieved it? Well, when you become president, right? When I'm elected, right? By a majority of citizens. So here's a question. Is this achievable? Is it in your power to accomplish this? Not necessarily, right? So maybe we need to go back and look at the specificity, right? So maybe your goal should be to run for the presidency of the US, right? So when we do that, we say, what's the measurable thing? It's when I am put on the ballot, right? And I get enough signatures to get on the ballot. Is this in your power to accomplish? Yes. Yes, it is, right? Does it make sense in your personal mission? Does it improve your business? If you're a business, right? Does it improve you? Sure. Yeah. If you are a political science major and you want to be president, or if you've got all of that stuff, then yeah, sure, it's totally realistic and relevant. This is the hardest one, right? So attainable and relevant are very similar, but I think relevant is the hardest. So when you do attainable, here's what you should be thinking about. So your goal should be challenging, achievable. Your goal should be challenging, but it's still reasonable to achieve. So reflecting on this can reveal any potential barriers that you may need to overcome to realize success, okay? And you need to outline the steps you're planning to take to achieve your goal through attainable, right? So is it in your power to accomplish? Yes, but there's a bunch of things you're gonna have to do it first, right? You gotta get a campaign manager. You gotta get all these other things, right? Relevant is about getting real with yourself, right? It's about looking at what you want or what your organization wants, right? And looking at your mission, your vision, and your values, and determining if this goal is aligned to your values and if it's a priority for you. That's what relevant is. So attainable is it should be challenging, but you should be able to do it. Relevant means, is it worth doing? Is it worth doing when you look at your values and your mission? Is this goal worth doing? Time bound, of course, is the easiest, is like a target date, right? So when do you want to accomplish it? By 2028. Okay. So if I was going to write this mission, or this goal, if I had decided that this was both attainable and relevant to me, which for me personally it's not, but it could be for you, then your goal would be to run for the presidency, to attain enough signatures to qualify to run for the presidency of the US before the 2028 election. That's your goal, right? And then you would have sub goals, right? So you would have hire a campaign manager by 2024. So these would all be sub goals, right, of this main goal, because you would have thought about the relevancy, the achievableness. How do you accomplish it? And those would be the sub goals of your main goal. I hope that makes sense. I went on a little bit of a tangent there. I went on a lot of bit of a tangent there, but it's okay. It's important. SMART goals are important. All right. So, so we've done an analysis, we've established our priorities, and now we're developing goals, SMART goals, objectives, and action plans based on the strategy, and then we evaluate, right? So your goal is your desired outcome, expand the audience base. That's not a very good SMART goal. Your objective is the method to achieve the goal. So in this example, right, they're going to expand the audience base by adding a family series of 5 concerts next season. And action plans are specific tasks with assigned resources and deadlines. So they're going to redesign performance schedule. They're going to allocate budget support. They're going to hire staff. They're going to increase marketing. These are the ways that they're going to do this, right? Because in order to add a family series of 5 concerts next season, you have to look at your current season and figure out where you're going to put it, right? And evaluation. So before they did all of this, they're going to say, I'm going to expand the audience base, right? That has a success written in the goal, right? The goal, the way to measure the success of that goal is that you get more audience, right? So that's how you're going to assess it. You're going to track the attendance at each concert by demographic profiles. And you're going to compare that to the people who come to your other shows, right? That's what your assessment tool would be. And then your feedback from your assessment will assist with adjusting your strategy or rethinking your organizational analysis. So if you do all of this, right, if your goal is to expand the audience base by adding a family series of 5 concerts next season, you do all of that, you redesign the performance, you allocate the budget support, you increase your marketing, and then like your attendance doesn't grow, then you would come back here to establish your priorities. Okay, so is this really a desired outcome? And if it is, like what went wrong? What were the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of that? What happened, right? Should we try again? Was it our marketing? So you're always evaluating, you're always rethinking your organizational analysis. Strategic planning is a constant thing. It happens officially like once every 5 years or so, but it's a constant. You're always evaluating your programs. You're always trying to do better work. If you ever become stagnant, then you're not doing good work anymore. And I want you to always be doing good work. Okay. So the first question you have to answer about yourself is, do you consider yourself a planner, or are you more comfortable keeping your options open, or are you somewhere along a continuum, right? So when you think about your life, right, when you think about yourself, okay, so I'm traveling in 12 hours, and I don't really have a plan, right? So I have a couple of appointments, and then I have a couple of free days, right? So I have somewhere in the middle, right? I have a couple of days where I know exactly what I'm going to be doing. I know, can you hear my cat? I know exactly where I'm going to be staying. I know exactly when I'm going to be flying in and out. I know where I'll be on Tuesday morning, but between Tuesday and Wednesday, I don't really have a plan. I know I gotta, go back to my Airbnb, but like maybe I'll hang out in New York somewhere or whatever. This is weird because it's backwards and then it like, this has gone horribly wrong. So I exist on a spectrum, right? So I exist along the continuum. I like to plan some things. I like to keep some time open and then live somewhere in the middle. Some people are real big planners. I've been reading in your discussions, like some of you have your life like planned down to the minute. And I've been like that, man. Like sometimes you just have to have everything. I know on Monday I'm going to do this, this, and this. On Tuesday I'm going to do this, this, and this. On Thursday I'm going to do this, this, and this. Some people are like that, and that is okay. That is okay. And if you're going to lead a planning process, whether you are like me and you exist somewhere along a spectrum, or if you're one of those people who likes to plan everything, or if you're the kind of person who just likes to let things flow, you have to understand that when you're doing a planning process, you have to own that process and you have to feel comfortable leading other people through it, right? You have to feel comfortable whether you're that kind of person or not, if that makes sense. So sometimes you have to get outside of your comfort zone in order to be a successful planner. You have to be really honest with yourself if you're going to be a manager. You have to be able to look at yourself and answer your questions. What are you good at? What are you bad at? Right? Those are really important things. Okay, so what is a plan? 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, so let's start with some definitions. The first definition is plan. So a plan is a statement of intended means for accomplishing desired results, right? So it's a statement of intended means for accomplishing desired results. All that means is that you're thinking about what you want, and then the plan is how you get there, right? The plan is the journey. So you got to figure out where you're going, and then you got to figure out how you're going to get there. And you have to think about every step on how you get there, okay? A decision is a conclusion or resolution after consideration. And decision-making process is the process of making decisions. So a decision is a conclusion or resolution after consideration. So a decision is, okay, so I have two things, and I've decided I'm going to do this thing, right? I've thought about it, and I'm decided. And decision-making is the process of making that decision, right? What are the things that you think about as you think, do I want A or B? Make sense? So simple enough, right? So, but then there's the conundrum of the predicament of planning. So what is that? What is the predicament of planning? On the wrong screen. Oh, conundrum. A conundrum is a confusing and difficult problem or question. It could be a riddle, or the answer might be just a guess or a conjecture on your part, right? So Mintzberg's conundrums of planning. I'm going to make this big. Mintzberg's conundrums, of managing. So there's thinking conundrums. So thinking things that are confusing. There's people conundrums, there's information conundrums, and there's action conundrums. So what do you think? So thinking about what I said before, when I said management, leadership is just navigating things that are what did I say? Management is navigating. Wow, I don't remember. So thinking about that, like what are some conundrums? You won't always know what is what's real, right? You won't always know exactly what to do, right? So the answer might just be a guess or a conjecture, or you making the best choice based on the things that you know. I'm gonna find some information about Mintzberg's conundrums of managing and put them in the thing. Okay, so you have a definition of planning, and you're aware of and ready to work your way through the conundrums of management. The conundrums of management, which is thinking conundrums, information so you could have a difficult problem or a question in the way that you think. You could have a difficult problem or a question in the way that you have people. You could have a difficult problem or question in the actions that you do, or you could have a difficult question or a problem in the information that you have. So the all right, so here are the conundrums of management. So the syndrome of superficiality is how to get in deep when there's so much pressure to get it done, right? So you're always going to have somebody saying, I need this, I need this, I need this. You're always going to have something to do, but you're going to need to get in deep and dig in deep and think about the long term, right? The predicament of planning, right, is how to plan, strategize, just plain think, let alone think ahead in such a hectic job. So it's the same as the syndrome of, similar to the syndrome of superficiality, right? And the labyrinth of decomposition is, where do you find synthesis in a world so decomposed by analysis? That's hard. Where to find synthesis in a world decomposed by analysis, right? So you've analyzed your organization, you've analyzed it down to the threads that hold the organization together. But you have to find synthesis, right? So where can you put things together to create something bigger? So now that you've torn it all apart, you have to put it back together. Information conundrums, the quandary of connecting. How do you keep informed when managing by its own nature removes the manager from the very things being managed, right? So when you're managing an organization, you're not necessarily in the trenches, right? As a manager, I'm not the one who is putting things on social media. I'm not the one that's analyzing things. So how do I stay informed about how my program is running? The dilemma of delegating. How do you delegate when so much of the relevant information is personal, oral, and often privileged, right? So how do you delegate? How do you take what's in your brain and put it down on paper? That's the problem that I have in my management right now, is the dilemma of delegating. So much of my job is just like in my brain, right? And I have to figure out how to get that information on paper so that I can delegate it to someone else. The mysteries of measuring. How do you manage when you can't rely on measuring? In art, this is a huge question for us, right? How do you know if art is having an impact? How do you know? You can't really measure it, right? So how do we manage? How do we know if we're successful if you can't really know how successful or how much impact art is having? Are there other things you can look at? People conundrums. The enigma of order. How do you bring order to the work of others when the work of managing itself is so disorderly, right? So when you're managing it, there's like no easy, orderly way to do it. So how do you help other people be in order when you don't get to really sit down and like put everything in order, right? The paradox of control. How to maintain the necessary state of controlled disorder when one's own manager is imposing order, right? So your manager, my manager, they say, we need this, 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 and this, right? No matter if you're a middle manager, you always have somebody above you being a manager, that's higher than you. Somebody's always managing you. Even if you're the CEO of an organization, your board is managing you. And your board is like, we want order, right? But your job is controlled disorder. So how do you keep things as controlled disorderly as possible when still making sure your manager knows, or your manager feels like they're imposing order on you, right? Are there goals, right? Can you set goals with each other? Can you set goals with your manager? Can you set goals with your underlings, your employees? You know, how do you communicate that? And how do you, the clutch of confidence, this is also something that I struggle with, is how to maintain a sufficient level of confidence without crossing over into arrogance, right? How can you know that you know what you know without being like, I know what I know and nobody can tell me otherwise. How do you know that you know what you know without crossing over into being a jerk, right? I have trouble with that. I flirt with that line. Sometimes I go from one extreme to the other. Sometimes I'm pretty sure I know what I know, and sometimes I know that I know what I know and everybody else is wrong. And sometimes I'm like, how did I get this job? You guys, how am I a teacher? Who was like, oh, you know what would be great? You could teach college. And I'm like, that seems weird. But over the course of the last year or so, I've learned to have confidence about it, right? Without being arrogant. Arrogant would be, have you guys asked me a question and I was like, you're wrong, and I didn't give you any reason why. Or if I wasn't willing to like change up things to help you, that's arrogance, right? Action conundrums. So that's the ambiguity of acting. So how do you act decisively in a complicated and nuanced world? So you're going to make a decision, and the decision isn't going to make everyone happy, but you still have to do it, right? You have to act decisively in a complicated and nuanced world. And the riddle of change, which is how to manage change when there is the need to maintain continuity. So when you're strategic planning, there's going to be a lot of stuff that like needs to stay the same, right? Because people need continuity. But if you got to change, you have to manage that change. And how do you do it? It's a balancing act, right? Those are the conundrums, Mintzberg's conundrums of management. You can just Google them if you want to get to this page to read it yourself. All right. So now you have the definitions of planning, and you're aware of and ready to work your way through the conundrums of managing. So what's next, right? So what do you do next? You know all the problems you're going to face, all the things you're going to have to answer. What do you do next? You do this, right? This answers all those questions for you, right? This breaks everything down, lets you establish priorities, and then develop goals, objectives, action plans based on that strategy, and then you evaluate. All right. So, looks like I got ahead of myself in the slides. So, organizational analysis. When you read your mission, are you able to see a purpose? Are you able to see a purpose? The Seattle Opera strives to produce musically extraordinary, theatrical, compelling operas. That's their purpose, to produce musically extraordinary, theatrically compelling operas. When you read it, are you able to see the methods and means to fulfill the purpose? Employing uniformly high-quality casts, dramatically aware conductors, and innovative yet textually concerned directors and designers. That's what they do, right? So this is why they do it. This is what they do, or how they do it, right? This is what happens when they do it. You see the outcomes reflected in this statement. Seattle Opera commits itself to advancing the cultural life of the Pacific Northwest. This is why you have to, when you see a mission statement, you have to see the why, the how, and what happens. Those are three things that have to be in your mission statement. Your vision is a guiding statement or an image of success. We will engage audiences and communities better than any other orchestra in the world. Toledo is a nationally known model for artistic and cultural community development. The Broadway Center will energize and help lead a renaissance that brings shared joy and prosperity to our community. So what's the difference between a mission and a vision? Right? That's a big question. What's the difference between a mission and a vision? Which one is attainable and which one is not? I'm looking it up because I can't remember, and I want to make sure that I tell you correctly. So your mission statement focuses on today, and your vision statement focuses on tomorrow. So your mission statement is, what do we do? Who do we serve? How do we serve them? Everything you do goes back to your mission statement. What do we do? Whom do we serve? How do we serve them? And a vision is, what are our hopes and dreams? What problem are we solving for the greater good? Who and what are we inspiring to change? So your vision is something that's unattainable. You could never do it. To eliminate poverty, right? That's a vision. It's not a mission. Your mission is to help reduce the amount of poverty in the United States through offering whatever. Does that make sense? That's the difference. Your mission is, what do we do? Whom do we serve? How do we serve them? It's about today. And your vision is a guiding statement. It's about tomorrow, right? It's about the future. What are our hopes and dreams? What do you want to become? It's aspirational. What problems are you solving for the greater good? Who and what are you inspiring to change? Your vision statement is about growth. Your mission is about what you do. And then your values. Your values are what you believe is important to the organization. The National Performing Arts Network is committed to fostering diversity and artistic experimentation through its support for artists and partners. We value partnerships, freedom of expression, critical dialogue, lifelong learning, diversity, and public funding support. Those are their values. Those are the things that are most important for them. Your organization should have a mission, a vision, and values that you can refer to at any time. And everything you do, if you have a question about whether or not you should do it, you should look at your mission, your vision, and your values and figure out if it meets all of those criteria. All right, so I showed you this already. So a SWOT is a process that's all about asking good questions, testing assumptions, and confronting your mental models. Here's where you can put your decision-making process to work, right? Internal strengths, internal weaknesses. This is sideways. I had this here and this here. These were switched in my diagram, right? Internal strengths, internal weaknesses, external opportunities, external threats, right? Talked about this. It's just a process. It's about asking good questions, testing your assumptions, and confronting your mental models. And a resource analysis. Do we have people, the skills, abilities, capacities to do the things we need to do, right? We talked about this: financial and physical capacity, sustainable support systems, business practices and policies, right? All right, so formulating a strategy. So the organization makes plans, but it executes them by using strategies designed to achieve the combined outputs and outcomes. So an organization makes plans, but it executes them by using strategies designed to achieve the combined outputs and outcomes. Strategy is evolving, intentional, and focused, right? So you're going to think about what your plan is, what your future is, but you do it through strategies, right? We talked about these earlier, right? We talked about these, right? An objective, it's a verb noting the direction of the change, the area of change, the target population, the degree of change, and the time frame. So they're saying, so this, so Burns is calling a SMART goal an objective. So a goal would be like, I want to change the world, and the objective would be a SMART goal. How are you going to do that, right? The action plan is like the specific things that you're going to assign to people that will meet the objective. Outcome objectives: to decrease, to increase, decrease, expand. Process objectives: develop, implement, conduct. Then you got to take all the preparation and you got to put it into a document. You're going to convert all the preparation into a planning document. And planning document just looks like this, right? So you got your goal, you got your objective, develop a larger audience base. Your objective, does this mean all the SMART things? Increase the number of season ticket buyers by 5% and revenue by 8% by June 30th. Is it specific? Yes. Is it measurable? Yes. Is it attainable? I would say so. I mean, it depends on when they start, right? Is it realistic? Okay, what's their mission? To entertain and engage audiences and the community through the power of contemporary dance, to be known internationally as a company that produces new works that extends the boundaries of dance. Yeah, I mean, they want to entertain and engage audiences. This is definitely relevant to their mission, having more audience, right? And is it timely? Does it have a time base, right? It does, June 30th, right? So how are they going to do that? First, their first action is to develop detailed marketing and public relations plan for next season by August 1. So the one thing I would say about this is it does not have a date. So June 30th, 2020, right? So develop a detailed marketing and PR plan for next season by August 1st, 2019. Create sales objectives for each series, assess effectiveness of the current ad campaigns. So the marketing and PR director is going to do that with the marketing and PR budget, and you're going to keep track of like how it's going, right? Complete research analysis of the last 5 years of ticket sales by 6:30, right? So you can't know how it's going unless you do the research on the past. So the marketing and PR director and the business manager are going to do this. No direct costs, right? It's not going to cost us anything except time, and they haven't started it yet. Develop new ticket flex plan series by July 30th. So you're going to research ticket buyer preferences from the database. You're going to meet with focus group to discuss likes and dislikes of the flex plans. The marketing and PR director, the ticket sales staff, and the focus group director are all going to do that. Got about $2,000 for refreshments and a focus group leader, somebody to bring in. And they've scheduled the focus group, right? So this is what it looks like. I'm going to show you what I do. I don't have, for my project, I don't have a strategic plan because I have a project and not a program or an organization. What I do have is a project management software. So remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how that when you become a manager, you have to figure out how to keep data in a way that makes sense to you. This is the way that makes sense to me. I'm trying to log into the site, but I'm having some trouble. 2 seconds. You guys. All right. So this is Asana. This is a project management software. So I'm going to just pull this up. This is the emergency preparedness worksheet for the Houston Arts Alliance, right? So what we need to do, here are all the things we need to do, right? Here's who needs to do it. Here's when it's due and the priority of it and what the progress is. Obviously, if it doesn't have a progress, it's probably not started, right? So this is in relation to the policy, right? We did a SWOT analysis, and these are the policy things that we need. We did a SWOT analysis, and we're moving spaces. These are the things that we need for our new space, right? This is the personnel needs that we have. So the goal for this is for HAA to have, or for the Houston Arts Alliance to, you guys, why is there 4,000 of these? So the goal of this is for HAA to have a robust emergency preparedness plan to act as a, by, I think, the end of the year, or no, by February 29th, 2020. Yeah, it's not a very measurable goal. So I really need to think about how measurable it is. It's a really good thing for me to remember, right? So it doesn't have to look like this. It can look like this, right? This is a system that we use, Asana. Asana has a free software or a paid software if your organization is interested in it. So it's just this: take your goal, your objective, how you're going to do it, break it down, who's going to do it, where's the money going to come from, and just keeping track of the status. All right. So the overall plans for the organization are supported by and shaped by operational plans in other key areas of the organization, right? So there's a dynamic interaction between the overall strategic plan and the operational plans in specific areas of the organization over time. So the overall strategic plan is the purpose, direction, internal, external factors influencing the organization, what your strategies are. And then you're also going to have programming plans. You're going to have marketing plans. You're going to have fundraising plans. So in the Houston Arts Alliance, we have the disaster services department has plans. I have a specific mission, vision, situational analysis, right? I have my own goals and objectives, my own action plans, my own evaluation. The grants department has the same thing. The civic art department has the same thing. The finance department has the same thing. The fundraising department, the communications department, they all have their own plans, but they all go back to the overall strategic plan of the organization. So the strategic plan guides what your operational plans are. And executing plans requires setting up regular progress reports and assessment of progress. At the same time, adjustments and revisions to plans are needed as conditions change. This requires a feedback loop be established to help keep the planning relevant, right? So executing plans requires setting up regular progress reports. So like in Asana, right? Looking at Asana, I can see all the people who are assigned things, right? And I can see how their progress is. I can see when things are late. I can see what's high priority, what's low priority. This is a feedback loop, right? This in and of itself is a feedback loop. But you have to create a feedback loop that works for you as a manager. So as the plan unfolds, conditions change, which require adjusting goals, objectives, and action plans. The assessment of the plan is continuous as the feedback loop. So here's the thing. When we look at this, right, you see all these tasks. It's a lot of tasks. It's a lot of tasks. When you look at this, oh my God, there's so much to do here, right? But what I'm doing is I'm having a meeting soon where I'm going to sit down with one of these people and I'm going to say like, all right, we need to look at this. Like what really is worth our time? Because we're not getting anything done. Nothing's getting done. If I were to take this and show completed tasks, like there's not that many, right? And it's all stuff that I did. So like, what is the best way to go about this? This was our plan. It's not working. So now we need to reevaluate and make it more successful. It's continuous, right? That's what this means. There are other planning techniques you can use in other planning techniques you can use in an arts. Include the balanced scorecard and scenario planning. So balanced scorecard places your strategies and mission at the center of a system that balances 4 key elements of an arts organization. Right, so you've got your audiences, patrons, and donors. Those are your stakeholders. You've got your internal processes, your learning and growth, getting better at what you're doing, and your finances. Then there's also scenario planning, right? Thinking about what ifs. Each scenario tells the story of what varying degree of success or failure might look like, right? What if you don't get more audiences? What if you don't get more money, right? What if you do? What if the city changes their requirements for grants and all of a sudden you have a windfall, right? Those are the scenario planning. This is the balanced scorecard, right? It's just a way of looking at your organization beyond the boundaries of departments or functional areas, right? So it just means you're not looking at like, instead of the way that we do it, which is like by department, you look at it this way, which is to look at it beyond functional areas, right? If the overall strategic goal is growth, then the issue is what goals, objectives, and action plans need to be coordinated across these 4 major areas to achieve the outcome, right? So if the goal is growth for everyone, what of these things need, all of these things need to change, and what do you need to focus on, right? Scenario planning, new addition to an art museum. Scenario A, funding limited but low construction costs, right? So that's okay, right? You can make that work. What happens when that happens though? What can you do and can't you do? in this scenario? What if your funding is limited and there's high construction costs? What do you do then, right? What if there's good funding and high construction costs? Like, so this is the best scenario, right? What if there's good funding and low construction costs? Can you maybe move over here to high construction costs, right? Scenario planning offers options for considering a variety of alternatives to an outcome being pursued. So not just one thing's going to happen, right? D is ideal, good funding, low construction costs, so you don't go over, right? But A, B, and C might be real, right? You don't know. So you have to be prepared for any of these outcomes. So how does that change in your plan, right? How long is this, you guys? Okay. All right, there's also contingency planning, which is a variation scenario planning by developing a series of plans. So if A doesn't work, then you do plan B or C. So you do a couple of plans, right? So this assumes you've developed detailed alternative plans. That means you've done a bunch of planning, right? Crisis planning. So based on the assumption from time to time situations will arise in the course of doing business that may require you to respond to a crisis situation. So what I do is crisis planning, right? That's what I do. I do crisis planning. That thing that I showed you, that's a crisis plan. So you need to develop a step-by-step process to respond to patron or stakeholder concerns or media requests. That's a crisis plan, right? Everybody should have a crisis plan. This is not optional. This is not an approach. You should have a crisis plan. Something will go wrong and you need to know what to do when something big goes wrong. There will be a tropical storm. This is Houston. We will flood. And you need to be prepared to do something. You need to know what that means or what you're going to do. So the limits of planning. There are several factors that can limit the effectiveness of planning. The levels of uncertainty are often underestimated or the process itself is too cumbersome to implement, right? The levels of uncertainty are often underestimated. So maybe you think that there's less uncertainty than there is, right? So you think like, oh yeah, all this stuff's going to happen, right? I'm not worried about it. We're going to get the money. It's going to be fine. But that's not always true, right? You may not know how uncertain things can be, right? Things outside of your control may be happening. There may be things going on that like you have no idea about. So the process can be too cumbersome to implement. So that's like what we were talking about earlier when we were looking at that crisis plan for the Houston Arts Alliance, right? It's cumbersome. We don't have, we're an overworked, we're at capacity, right? So doing that work is hard and it's cumbersome for us. Most often the problem realizing a plan is insufficient financial and human resources to implement the objectives and action plans. So it just means most of the time when you have a plan and it doesn't happen, it's because you don't have the people, you don't have the money, you don't have the time, right, to implement each of the things in the plan. And you have to be prepared for that. That's what the feedback loop is. If you're prepared, if you're doing a feedback loop, then you can adjust your plan as needed and it doesn't get abandoned altogether. Because if you went through that whole process of planning, right, and then it fails and you just like let it all go, what was the whole point? That's why you need that feedback loop. You should always be paying attention. All right, so the decision-making process, we'll talk about this real quick. It assumes that you have sufficient information to render a decision and that you have assessed that you need to engage in these 6 steps, right? So this assumes that like you've done research, information about whatever decision it is you're trying to make, right? So identify the problem. What's the problem? The problem is my nose itches, right? That's my problem right now. Generate alternative solutions. So my problem is my nose itches. I can scratch it and you guys can just watch, right? I could make it so you can't see, scratching my nose all I want, whatever. I could pause the video and go blow my nose. And those are my 3 choices, right? So let's evaluate them. So the first one is I just scratch it all the time and you guys think I'm a weirdo because my nose always itches. It has to do with like the way that my face resonates when I talk, I guess. It's not really about snot. If I do this, then you're just like staring at a PowerPoint, right? That's the negative. I don't like that very much, right? But I do it sometimes because I don't want you to see me scratching my nose. Or, you know, if I pause, then like it looks weird because I'm like here, and then all of a sudden I'm like here, right? And you don't always know what's going on. You're like, what happened? She went away, she came back, she's amazing. Was there a glitch? What happened, right? Those are the positives and the negatives. So what I've decided right now is I'm gonna put myself on the video, and as my nose itches, I'm gonna try to ignore it, but I might scratch it, right? That's my, I'm implementing that solution. Evaluating the results, I'm gonna evaluate the results right now, guys. Would you rather answer this in your discussion? Would you rather watch me scratch my nose and like be able to see me talking like this and understand what I'm, or would you rather not? Would you rather just see that screen, this over here, right? Would you rather just see this, or would you rather see me scratch my nose every once in a while? Tell me. I'm evaluating. That's where I am in the decision-making process. And then I can make adjustments, right? If you guys are like, I mean, we like it, but not all the time, then, you know, I'll keep doing what I'm doing, which is like hiding my face sometimes and not hiding my face sometimes. If you're like, we really would rather see your face, then you guys are gonna watch me scratch my nose. If you're like, we hate noses, your itchy nose drives me insane, then I'll make adjustments and re-implement, right? I'll implement a new solution. I'll evaluate that, see how it's going, keep going, right? Let's say my nose stops being itchy, right? So we figure out we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it like this, right? Great, everything's going great, and then there's gonna be another problem. So we just keep doing this over and over again. Identifying the problems, generating alternative solutions, evaluating alternatives, and selecting solutions, right? That's the decision-making process. And are you ever done? No, you're never done planning. If you're in management, you're literally always planning. Right now, while I'm teaching this course, I'm planning, right? I'm planning, I made a plan for how I was gonna do this lecture, and I'm doing it, and I'm assessing it as I go. And I've gone way over time. It's way late at night. So I need to plan some more, right? So I'm thinking about I have to do another lecture after this for you guys because I promised you. I still have to pack. I have all these things. I have this plan, and I'm doing it, but it's not working. So for the next lecture, I might be faster. For the next lecture, I might be like, I'm not going to lecture. Read the book. Maybe for the next lecture, I don't know. We'll see what happens. This was a really important chapter, though. I know this lecture is long. It was a really important chapter, but you're never done planning, right? You're always planning, doing, and assessing. Planning, doing, and assessing. If you ever stop, then you're stagnating, and you don't want to stagnate, right? We talked about that at the beginning. You're stagnating, you're dying. You have to be changing, right? We talked way back, like last week, about the adaptive arts organization. You have to be adapting to the environments around you, right? If you're not adapting, then you're going to fall behind, right? And this is how you adapt. You plan, you do, you assess. You plan, you do, you assess. That's it. It's just that easy. You plan, you do, you assess. Right? If it was that easy, I wouldn't have lectured for an hour, right? But it is. It's just that easy. If you have any questions about this, let me know. I know that your assignment, let me look at your assignment. Your mission assignment. Yep, see, that was my nose again. That was my nose again. Pulling up your assignment. So your organizational plan is going to be a strategic plan. It's going to be a full strategic plan. So you're going to, over the course of the semester, you're going to do all of these. There's going to be a bunch of different things that are all worth 10%. And when you put them all together, it's going to be a strategic plan. That's your organizational plan. Okay, mission and purpose statement. Mission and purpose. You know what? This doesn't work. Look, I made a decision. I'm evaluating. You can't really see it. I'm gonna make it bigger. All right. The major project for this class involves you're creating a hypothetical arts or service organization from the ground up. You will work in teams of 2 if you want to create the mission and develop programming for the organization. You must select an existing venue in the greater Houston area. However, that venue may not be affiliated with any university. So what that means is you have to do it at the match or at somewhere that exists, right? At the MFAH. Your organization is going to exist within a venue that already exists. You're not going to build a new building. So your first assignment is to name your organization, define its purpose, and write a mission statement. I don't just want a mission statement. I want mission, vision, values. I'm going to edit it right now. You need to have mission, vision, and values for your organization. Your paper should be at least 2 pages, single-spaced, and you must answer the following questions. What is the name of your organization? Right, that's in the assignment, right? What does your organization do? What does it do? What is your primary art form? Who does the organization serve? Be specific. What does the organization offer? Like why are you better than everyone else? Why should I go to your arts organization? Where does the organization devote its resources? So your resources are your people, your time, right? Where do you devote it? Do you devote it toward performance? Do you devote it toward community outreach? Do you devote it toward planning? Where does your organization devote its resources? Your mission statement should be very clear. Your mission, vision, and values. I should be able to look at your paper and be able to pick out your mission, vision, and values. Make sure I know where it is. Okay? So that's your assignment, and it is due I don't know. When does it due? The 13th of September. No, the 4th of October. It's due the 4th of October. So you got some time. You got 2 weeks, right? So not next Saturday, but the Saturday after. So you got 2 weeks to put all that together. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. As far as that's concerned, I'm going to try and figure out how to, if worst comes, you know what, here's what we're going to decide, okay? If you're in a pairing, if you're in a group, one of you will turn in the assignment. That one person will always turn in the assignment, okay? You'll be in these groups for the rest of the class, for your whole organizational plan. Designate a person to turn in the assignment. I have the list of groups. I will put grades across to both of you, okay? Yes, that is what you will do, okay? If you're not in a group, just turn in your assignment, that's it. I appreciate you guys sitting through this whole lecture and dealing with my itchy nose. I hope that you all are doing okay, and I will see you soon.